First, for those audience are thinking about expanding their circle of influence. You can call it a network, you can call it anything, or mastermind group. If you're thinking about expanding it and you only have one person that you think, or you have zero person that you are thinking about yet, it's about time to just look at who do you know. So I'm going to divide and conquer. We know people at our workplace. It could be with an ex-employer, could be with the current employer. Who are the people you have interact with and felt that I want to know about Mary Lou, for example, a little bit more. She seems interesting. She seems having an open mind. And by the way, she loves singing karaoke too. Why don't I invite her? I may not be as good as her, but it takes a common interest, right? It takes a common interest. So think about those people you feel good about, you admire. If you haven't gotten your list down yet, just jot down the list. So that is your workplace. And then there is also your family. There must be cousins, uncle and auntie, or even nephews and nieces, you name it, that you think, I really want to know him, her, them better.
This is the Play Your Position podcast, where we huddle up, call the plays, and inspire you to run your ball into the end zone. Are you ready to score more game-winning touchdowns in your life, business, and career? Then listen up, because it's game time, baby. Now, here's your host, Mary Lou Kaiser.
Hello, Team PYP. Mary Lou Kaiser here. Welcome to today's episode of the Play Your Position podcast. I am so grateful that you decided to join me and my guest today because it is game day here at the Play Your Position podcast. And today I've got not only a dynamic leader who has done incredible work in the world, but she's also someone I consider a friend. Her name is Alice Tang, and she's coming to us from my old wonderful city of Portland, Oregon. Alice, are you ready for kickoff?
Yes, I'm so excited. I'm ready.
I am too. I've been looking forward to this for quite some time. So Alice, I'm going to share a few details about you with my audience, and then we're going to get into your stories, which I know are really packed with detail and great tips and education. So here's what I know, team, about Alice Tang. First of all, when it comes to building networks, Alice is probably the most skilled at building a professional and personal network of anyone I've ever met. She has proven time and time again that networking really is the secret to not just success at work, but having a successful life. She is a vice president and partner at a full-service, multi-generational, full-service financial planning firm in Oregon. She's a top female producer in the financial industry and a sought-after speaker. She has built her business and her success by focusing on creating and deepening relationships one connection at a time. She has an incredible story of how she ended up where she is today. Her beginnings were in Hong Kong, and she graduated from the University of London, where she met her husband, and they immigrated to the United States without a network, with no family, no community, and she started a career in financial advising. And I'm going to let her fill in the rest of the gaps because there's a lot more to her story. So Alice, let's lay the groundwork. You got the call to leadership at some point in your life, and I would love for you to share your story with us right now. How old were you? What was going on in your life? And how has it evolved over time?
Very great question, Mary Lou. It helped me to think back what happened in the past, especially in the childhood situation when we were in Hong Kong. So we grow up very poor. Today, you would only imagine, every kid has a cell phone on their hand, but we were really playing telephone on a playground. And at that time, we had Campbell canned soup. So after we finished that soup, our parents would polish the edges so that it doesn't cut our hand. So if you can create two and plug a hole at the bottom of the other end, thread it through a little string, hold tight, we play telephone.
Oh, wow.
So I was probably 5-year old, and I was the oldest cousin among all 9 cousins.
Okay.
So I was told by my adults, right? My mom, dad, where they were playing the Chinese mahjong game. So, Alice, go play your games, telephone, and please watch your brothers and sisters. Make sure they don't get into any trouble or danger. So I thought back that must be a moment of leadership, which I didn't know at the time, because I love telling people what to do. She has just given me the freedom, right? The right to do that. So, kids, come with me. We were told to play, and let's take our telephones.
Yes.
So that was it.
So let's fast forward to today. I think childhood for a lot of us was instrumental. And I like that you pointed out you weren't necessarily aware at the time that leadership would be a part of your life, but it is. It has been for a long time. And here you are today. One thing I didn't mention when I was sharing some biographical details with you, Alice, is you recently were recognized by the Portland Business Journal for something. And I would love for you to tell us about that, because I think that recognition ties into your whole philosophy of what it takes to be successful, particularly in a world that is highly connected through technology. We're definitely a long ways away from those days of playing telephone with 2 Campbell soup cans and a string, right? I think a lot of people can resonate with that story. we all love to play. There's just something about connecting with other people that is fundamentally human. So yeah, tell us about your recent recognition, and then perhaps go into some details about what you teach people related to building a community, a network that, as you know, that breeds success, but also allows you to serve.
Thank you, Mary Lou, for your greetings. Yes, I'm humbled and excited and honored at the same time. I'm stepping in the song, I Claim It, is 2023 Woman of Influence by the Portland Business Journal. So every year they recognize women who has made an impact to the community. So I'm super excited and grateful for the award. So while I'm talking about influence, and influence has to do with leadership. So everybody might have a slightly different definition of leadership. In my mind, you're a leader of yourself, and you are a leader of the people around you. You are a leader of the community. Because even though you don't say, I have a title of manager, I'm a title of a team leader, you are. Why? Every actions or inaction, every reaction or no reaction, people are watching you. People above you are watching you. People under you are watching you. People around you are watching you. So your action will speak really loudly about what you care for, which is what we call values. So over the years, what I want to really, really do better, and I'm still a student of this, is how can I better influence myself so that I can show up as a even better person compared to yesterday in today's interactions with Mary Lou, with my next meeting, with my team, and with my family.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to pause right there and see if I'm climbing on the wrong branches, answering your questions, or I'm
Oh no, you're in the
lowering.
right. You are in the right branches. The starting with your own self and asking, how can I influence myself today to show up a little bit better is such a powerful question that we do need to ask ourselves every day. And it takes practice. When did you realize that asking yourself that question, Alice, was a good idea?
We went through life in different phrases, I called. Okay, so we grow up, like we talk about my childhood, teenager, then, college, right? Another phrase. And then I think probably since I was asked to be the youngest manager in my first job in Hong Kong, I'm stepping in that zone. I did not know what I was doing for sure, because I was 25 at the time, 26, and I was asked to be a department head at the time. So I have 12 people under me, 25-year-old. I hardly know how to manage or influence myself, let alone manage and influence a bunch of people under me. However, I think rolling forward to today, what I see is a different phrase of me. It's not about me anymore. You will come to a phrase, all the audience out there, you come to a phrase of your life. You've done so much and you work so hard to get to a place where you want to be. And now what? So
Yes.
people always say, let's think about our legacy, right? The legacy could be as simple as if you have children. They are your legacy. You give them all these that we just talked about, and hopefully they can leverage everything they learn from you and everybody else around them. And now we can learn from the internet too. Back then we don't have those. At least I don't, Mary Lou. You're way younger.
Oh, it's an interesting time, isn't it? Because the sources of education, of influence have broadened since the days before the internet. And I know something that's very important to you, Alice, is passing on wisdom and helping people, helping professionals see where they are as leaders, what they're doing well, what they can be doing better or differently by asking those questions of yourself that you just were sharing. And I would really love for you to get into more depth about what I call your secret sauce, which is your ability to create and deepen relationships one connection at a time. You truly are a master at building a professional and personal network. That is not a skill many people have. And yet you are a prime example of why doing that has made all the difference.
Well, thank you.
It's allowed you to, become the person you are, to have the lifestyle that you lead, and now be in a position where you are looking around saying, okay, what do I want to leave behind me? What am I wanting to pass on? And that's part of legacy.
Exactly. So my top value, one of my top values is relationship. So why? There's many reasons. For the sake of, the love of people, I just am curious about what somebody is doing, how they're feeling, and what is their perspective of life. And all these are good. But then I think one of the things that is really instrumental to shape this direction of why I want to do so much in keeping, creating, deepening the relationship is every immigrant has his or her story.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an immigrant, so I start with a network of 0. And I've been there when I have nobody but my husband. And he's working and traveling about half of a year. And I was not able to work because I was dependent on a work visa at the time.
Sure.
So think about you move to another state where you don't have your phone with you. And you moved into a home that you don't need to worry about paying rent or mortgage. But that's it. You have to restart. Who's my neighbor? What's the local grocery store? If you go to church, where's the church? Where is my meetup group for my karaoke singing?
Yes.
So I was there for a good period of time, a few years. And I realized that my ego and my self-esteem has gone down to the floor, on the ground, because of inability in getting the give and take, just like today, having a conversation. Because this conversation is great, whether this is recorded for a podcast or not. If someone, it's like Mary Lou, you're able to talk with me like this, my day would be better. But of course, back then, I don't have that. I felt very sorry for myself.
Mm.
And I felt very lonely, not supported. And I got to continue because when we made the decision to come to America, we made it jointly. So even I haven't thought about what would happen, how would I feel? We made a decision. We're sticking with it. At least I am. And he is too.
Yes.
So we got to make this work. And part of making this work is getting me out there. And I couldn't be out there without working permission from the INS or the naturalization office in United States, who granted, your different permission of doing whatever in United States. So we went back to the company and asked them to help us to get a green card.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily for my husband, because he can work, he's making money, he has the freedom, right? It's really for me, so that I can acclimate into the society and be the Alice that he and me both know about.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't the Alice for a few years. So once I got my green card, and of course, over time, I befriended some very good neighbors. The neighbor across the street invited me over to have games with their two sons. I'm not really into playing little games like ball games with two boys because I'm not sporty at all.
Okay.
I don't like to play balls, but guess what? That's one activity that really changed my life because this wonderful lady gave me my first English Bible.
Oh.
And my other neighbor, which is on the left side of the home, invited me over for a very simple dinner. And maybe she just cooked one more dish for a family of 5. But she had no idea she has touched me.
Mm-hmm.
Another neighbor invited me to do bunko.
Yes, bunko.
Which I think that game is silly, but it's really, it's a time for a bunch of women or men. I mean, it's not limited to women, but most women play back then in the neighborhood. Just conversation, right? You change table after you one game. So you get to know more people. And when you can take your mind off how sorry you are for myself, I'm for myself, and focus on learning about others.
Mm.
That really lightened up my day, but that is only once a month, not once a week. So that's why I'm very passionate about giving, even in a new relationship. I've said this many times. There is nothing too huge you can ask from me because in my opinion, yes and no are both good answers from me. If you ask for my firstborn child, I would say no. Of course. If you ask me if, Alice, I want 15 minutes, I just would like to make sure I get some advice from somebody who has some experience in this direction. Easy. I'm giving.
Mm-hmm.
It's halftime here at the Play Your Position podcast, and we've got ourselves a great game. While you're up grabbing another snack and topping off your favorite beverage, make sure to subscribe to the show so you never miss another play. PYP is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever great podcasts can be found. Now, let's get back to the game.
Well, thank you for sharing the vulnerable story of coming to a country where you knew no one except your husband and you were starting at zero. That lasted for a few years. I mean, that's I'm trying to picture, the several years passing by. The older we get, the more precious our time becomes to us. And that you were invited by people in your neighborhood to partake in something that you knew nothing about, but you were open. And despite having a resistance to sports, it turned out to be a tremendous gift to be invited to play, with the boys, right?
Yeah.
And I think the lesson there that I take is when we remain open to opportunity that may not look like we think it's supposed to, that we can find ourselves experiencing one of the greatest times in our lives, or perhaps meeting that one person that changes the direction of everything. It could lead to a business opportunity, or if someone is single, it could lead to a new love interest or even long-term relationship. It could lead to a job opportunity if, someone wants to pursue that direction versus doing their own thing. And it is the power of the network in full display. I also like that you were willing to share. You felt sorry for yourself for a bit of time, which I think is a very normal human emotion. And it's also a loud signal that something isn't right. Okay. If we're there's one thing to be self-reflective and ask yourself, what can I do to be better today? Versus being focused on yourself in a pitying way. Life just really isn't fair to me, or I don't know what messages were going on in your mind, but I'm familiar with, I think everybody is from time to time. We feel sorry for ourselves. And that's a sign that you've got to get out there and put yourself into something new. And you demonstrate, not only do you continue to do that, Alice, but you've shown that when you do that, the rewards are phenomenal. And I'm not just talking monetarily. That's what a lot of people think initially. Oh, it's more money. But it's about the relationship. It's about, you brought up curiosity, being curious about other people and their stories. What
Yes.
for people who are listening and maybe aren't that skilled at building a network, what are a couple of tips that you like to share? Because I know you speak about this quite regularly, and I've been fortunate enough to hear you speak. And I would love for you to pass on a couple of simple things that listeners might consider for themselves when they sit down and go, yeah, I'd really like to expand my network. I don't even know where to begin.
Well, great question, Mary Lou. I'm happy to share a couple skills that could be learned. It only takes discipline. So first, for those audience are thinking about expanding their circle of influence. You can call it a network, you can call it anything, or mastermind group. If you're thinking about expanding it, and you only have one person that you think, or you have zero person that you are thinking about yet, it's about time to just look at who do you know. So I'm going to divide and conquer. We know people at our workplace. It could be with an ex-employer, could be with the current employer. Who are the people you have interact with and felt that I want to know about Mary Lou, for example, a little bit more. She seems interesting. She seems having an open mind. And by the way, she loves singing karaoke too. Why don't I invite her? I may not be as good as her, but it takes a common interest, right? It takes a common interest. So think about those people you feel good about, you admire. If you haven't gotten your list down yet, just jot down the list. And so that is your workplace. And then there is also your family. There must be cousins, uncle and auntie, or even nephews and nieces, you name it, that you think, I really want to know him, her, them better. Write down their names. So I'm trying to help you to create a list here. And there are people also in the community that you might be doing volunteer work, you might belong to the same nonprofit organization, or you're at a meetup meeting. 10 people show up. There could be 1 or 2 people that seems, I'm curious about them. I like their energy. So write the names down.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first step if you are starting to create your circle of influence. The second step is take your time and ask for either a Zoom coffee appointment or a physical appointment. Truly get to know them. So whether you're a virtual meeting or a physical meeting, you might heard this from anybody else who's talking about, walking in a meeting, whether it's networking or a business meeting or even, an interview meeting, you need to prepare. How to prepare is to do good research about the party or the parties that you're going to meet so that you have enough idea how the conversation is going to take. Or even if you later on become very skillful, you can direct the questions to them. And I'm going to pause and say one thing that is important to anybody who's trying to build a relationship and try to have a great meeting. This is the person who's asking question in a meeting is controlling the meeting, although they are not contributing so much as the speaker or the person who's being asked and answer the question. You're controlling the meeting. And what's the point of, having that control? Because then you can, based on your vision at the end of the meeting, everybody has a vision at the meeting. And if someone going to a meeting for the sake of going to it, I ask you to question yourself why you need to go to that meeting in the first place. So let's pretend I'm meeting my cousin, Chris Miller, for the first time since a long time ago. I'm going to do exactly the same research. I will ask my gossip auntie, what do you know about her? What do you know about her? What is she up to? Of course, today we check social media and such, right? So that I can make sure that I bring in good open-ended questions to get to know. Remember the meaning of the meeting is to get to know Chris, my cousin. Okay. So my vision for that meeting, I don't have much, but I'm hoping that I can connect with Chris better. I want Chris to feel good to walk away.
Mm-hmm.
That's my only purpose.
I love that. I wanted to ask in a time that we live in today where people have their guards up about why would somebody want to meet with me? They must want something from me, right? How do you overcome when you're teaching others? Because you are clear that the whole point of the meeting is for them to walk away feeling better about themselves. That's it. There's no agenda other than that. And, to ask the questions and get to know the person, right? We live in a time now that the first sometimes the first instinct from someone is like, what do they want from me?
Totally. I get that, Mary Lou. And my way of handling it is if you know there is something, this is a question in their mind, let's take care of it even in the invitation. I'm not going to leave it to the meeting because in my invitation, if I said it right, they're going to say yes. It's a matter of when.
Yes. Okay.
Let's pretend I'm writing a letter. I'm obsessive about my writing, but today is an email. Okay. Or a text message.
Yes.
So I'm writing to them, or calling them. I'll just say, Chris, we haven't connected for a long time. What I want to do is to get to know you better. And you might wonder why. Because I'm in the process of building my own circle of influence. And I appreciate your sales training skill set that might help me and later on my journey in life. So I just want to get to know you more about you and also this line of business and service that you do. I'll close it with, here is my days, right, that I'm open for a virtual meeting. 30 minutes, it could be. If you ask for 3 hours, no one is going to give you. Ask for a reasonable short amount of time that you can really do your work. So usually I ask for 30 minutes. And then I'll close with, I appreciate yes and no are both good answers, respecting your priority in your life today. We give them a way out if they really are busy. How many people are busy? Raise your hand. Everybody raise your hand.
Yeah.
Okay. Why do I need to take time to meet you or help you? Depending on how you ask.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on if you are too forceful, right? Imposing yourself on me, or I have the freedom to say no. Probably is not in this month. It's not. But mid-May and later, I will be doing better. I have more flexibility to meet. That's good answer.
Yes.
Then make sure that you follow up. Don't let it drop. Many people receive a kind of no, but the no means later they drop. The test of resiliency is there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 4 weeks, how do you say that? Middle of May is about 4 weeks later. Put it on your calendar. If it were me, I would schedule an email going out so that I don't need to remember that.
Yeah. You're a master at these systems, Alice. I was so impressed with the presentation that you made back in, I think it was in January, wasn't it, of this year?
Yes.
The virtual presentation on systematizing your network building activities and what you just described. Team, first of all, I'm just going to step out here and recommend go back and listen to the wording that Alice just shared about how to compose a reach out email to someone. Beautiful, simple, straightforward, and put yourself on the other end of that if you received that. And I can tell you, I did receive an email from Alice very much like that. And we did a virtual Zoom coffee and it was wonderful. And I felt so just uplifted and inspired. And I was like, I have a new friend, and that is cool. You know, there was, and she, as you can hear, does such a fantastic job of framing the purpose of her activities. Right. So I'm going to step back in here, Alice, and follow up with one other thing. What's, I think it's good to go to the other side. What's besides not following up? I think that's one of a big mistake a lot of people make. And it's not because they don't care. It's because they use the word, get busy and forget. Oh, that's right. I reached out like, what was that? 4 months ago? Oh dear. You know, what's something that you have witnessed that people do in trying to build a network that is kind of is a no-no, not kind of, just is a flat out, don't do it?
There are many. But,
I'm sure there
you're
are.
talking about, discipline and following up. I think if you have a system that you have trust and belief in, let the system do the work.
Mm.
So my system is really simple. Every Tuesday, once I form my circle of influence, and there are 10 people there, Every Tuesday, 9 a.m. in the morning, I block 30 minutes to look at the names and think about them. You can call it meditation. It's not in my eyes, but you can do whatever. What can I bring value to these people? What can I do for them? And not thinking about what am I going to take back? When is Mary Jo going to refer me to the biggest client she is dealing with? Don't go there. Think about what you can do, because the only thing in life you can control is your action and you.
Mm-hmm.
If you try to control other people's action, well, we can use many terms. And one of the terms that I learned in English is manipulation, right? You try to get people there, but we like to influence them to be a better version of themselves. And if they know that you have given them that, how can they forget about you if you are showing up every Tuesday? And I'm not talking about the world of the 3,000 or 16,000 followers that we have on Facebook. Okay, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about maybe a handful to 10 people, week in and week out. You keep thinking about it, thinking of, what can I do? How can I make them more successful? Is that an article? Is that an introduction? Oh gosh, Mary Lou should know about the speaking opportunity at LEAP. Is that an invitation to an event? Maybe Chris and Mary Lou would like to come to this event to learn about this.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just send the invitation out. And again, yes and no are both good answers. And if you're running out of things, I've done all these in the last 5 weeks. Okay, I'm running out of things to give. How about a simple text message to Mary Lou saying that I'm thinking of you? How are you today? In that 10 seconds, 5 seconds, you are actually really thinking about Mary Lou. So you're not faking it.
Yeah, it's genuine. It's authentic. And it's powerful. And you do walk your talk, Alice. You have developed these systems. I like that you described you have a day each week, a time slot that you've booked on your calendar. It's designated for that particular activity, thinking about those 10 people. I'm curious, how did you choose those 10 people in your circle of influence? Is it random? I mean, I doubt it was random. You don't do things randomly. You're very strategic. I'm just, again, for people who are maybe starting from scratch, what were some of the criteria that you used to say, yes, I'm going to put these 10 names in my circle of influence?
So I'm going to rewind a little bit, go back to the list that I asked everybody to create just now. So let's say you have 20 names there. Let's pretend that is from the community, from your employment, current or previous, and from your family. So you have 20 names. So of course, you have to start meeting with them to determine if it's a good fit. How I define a good fit is you can add value to each other's life. That's the criteria. One-way street can only work so long.
Yeah.
It got to be both-way street. So, and then the details of that, I'm not going to labor it here.
No, you don't need to. I like that. I think that's a very simple, straightforward variable is it's got to be a two-way street.
Exactly. Yeah. And then for those who are really starting, don't target 10 people yet. Can you target 2? Can you target 3? Start small.
I like that. Yeah. Start small. It's wonderful.
Start small, have a system. Tuesday is my day, your day, maybe Monday, maybe Friday, maybe Saturday morning, depending on, your time and your schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's on your calendar, assuming you're checking your calendar and relying on your calendar, and there is a reminder from that recurring calendar, unless you ignore it, You're going to do it.
Yeah. Well, it's like anything else. It's like getting to the gym or going for a walk, or, the calendar is an incredible tool, and technology has made it so. I remember I used to be a paper calendar kind of person only. I had one of those Franklin binders. Do you remember those, Alice, that had,
Yes, I do.
Oh gosh,
They were expensive. Remember, I
they
started small here.
were. Yes, I think I would invest like over $100 a year to get all the new inserts. And I still have them all. I have them in a box somewhere. And I don't know why I didn't throw them away. I think probably because my parents saved stuff like that. So it just kind of passed on to me. But I digress. My point here is I was very resistant to transitioning to a digital calendar. But now that I have fully immerse myself in that, I love the ability to set up the reminders in my Google Calendar. I can go in and I carve out, like you say, recurring tasks that just pop up. And I have been known to ignore sometimes. But again, I'm human, right? You're not here to say there's a perfect system. It's really, I think, trial and error. It's making a commitment. It's having that discipline. You mentioned that word. And it's being consistent, commit and then persist. Just tell yourself this is a benefit. That two-way street is really, really rewarding. And I'm sure that there are people who are going to be curious about you, Alice, and might want to reach out to you after hearing our conversation today. So can you share with us where you hang out online? Where can people find you?
Well, I have a simple online life. So
that's good.
LinkedIn is the place where I mainly would use and go to. So if you have a LinkedIn account or not, it's linkedin.com/ask Alice Tang.
Nice.
And I also have a personal website, conversation on relationship and money, and it's called askalicetang.com.
And team, the links to Alice's online presence, LinkedIn, and her website will be on her show notes page at pyppodcast.com, along with her beautiful photo and the books that she's going to recommend here in a second. But before we get to that, Alice, I always like to ask my guests to either do a quick recap of things you shared today or leave us with one more bit of advice on what it takes to build a really solid relationship-based network.
It takes priority and determination. So there are two people who wanted to build the center of influence or circle of influence. One took off and become really efficient and successful in that. The other person did not. Both of them are great people. Let's commend them because they heard this podcast. They decided to do what they wanted to do, right? However, it's really the priority setting. So for the one who take off and did what they need to do, the discipline, the systems, this is a priority in their life right now. So they took off, they got all the notes here, and they go. The other person might still feel inspired and motivated, but they got lots going on. They couldn't untangle themselves from all these priorities and obligation. And most likely, building relationship is not a priority at the time because your action is going to speak louder than your words. So if you're not ready and you feel that, oh gosh, I want to do this, but I just didn't have time. Give yourself a break, pat your shoulder and say, I'm dealing with other important priorities that Mary Lou and Alice has no idea about. That's okay. Because the podcast is always there. You can always come back and revisit, or you can come to my website to get the skills and the tool and download workbooks if you want. When you're ready, when the student is ready, the teacher is always there. Actually, the teacher has not left us. but the student is not ready.
Oh, beautiful. I've always loved that saying. Thank you for sharing it. And let's end this with a couple of great books that have made a difference to you, Alice, in becoming the amazing leader that you are.
The first book is by Bob Burke, Go Giver. He said, all things equal, people are going to do business with and refer business to the people they know, like, and trust. It's all about relationships. And then the other book is Wolf Pack by Abby Wambach. I'm going to take us all back to the award that Mary Lou mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. I really think that the award is for my community, for my pack. I happen to be the face of it because what Abby said in the book, she said, when she wins, we all win. Surround yourself with people who believe in you and you win because they all want you to win. Even sometimes you are hesitant to believe in yourself. That's how powerful the network of the community and the trust that they give you.
Wow. That is a wonderful and beautiful way to conclude what has been an uplifting, insightful, very nourishing conversation today, Alice. I will include links to both of these books also on your show notes page. Thank you for recommending Wolfpack and The Go Giver, both really much bigger than the authors themselves, the concept, right? Fabulous. Right. Fabulous.
Thank you so much, Mary Lou, for having me.
Hey team, Mary Lou here. Who's number one in football changes from year to year. Fashion trends come and go, same with musical tastes. But leadership skills, they never go out of style. In fact, these days, leadership is an essential survival skill for a world that demands more from us than ever before. To succeed these days, you need to know how to show up for yourself so that you can then do the work you love with people you like the way you want. The Play Your Position Leadership Playbook helps you do this, and it's free. Go to pyppodcast.com to download your copy today. If being more successful this year, next year, in the 21st century is on your to-do list, get your copy of the Play Your Position Leadership Playbook now. pyppodcast.com. It's at the top of the page. You can't miss it. That's pyppodcast.com, and start being more of the leader you are meant to be today. This podcast was produced by Daniel Romeros. Show notes for this episode can be found over at pyppodcast.com. I'm Mary Lou Kaiser. Thanks for listening.
Here at the Play Your Position podcast, we believe that the road to self-mastery and a life well lived starts with answering the call to leadership. That's when the fun really begins. Send this episode to any friends who might need to hear the inspiration and ideas you heard today. And feel free to rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform.